Welcome to the Immigration Clarity Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Immigration Clarity Podcast, brought to you by Andrade, Barbosa, and Santos, LLC. On this show, we break down complex immigration issues so individuals and families can better understand their options. My name's Sean O'Connor, and today I'm joined by Attorney Joceline Andrade, a partner at the firm who focuses on family-based immigration and removal defense. And today, she and I are talking about whether you can get a work permit while your immigration case is pending and what that process looks like. Joceline, great to see you again.
Hi, great to see you.
This, I'm guessing, comes up a lot, this idea of a work permit. People need to work. What does it mean, first of all, for an immigration case to be pending?
Okay. So first of all, a work permit is a hot commodity. Everybody needs a work permit. Everybody wants a work permit. So generally, what people don't understand is that in order to get a work authorization or a work permit, you have to have something pending with immigration. A lot of people have this assumption that, oh, I just want a work permit. Okay, that's nice. However, what do you qualify for, right? So for example, if you file an asylum application after your case has been pending for at least 150 days, you can file for a work authorization card. Generally, that process right now, as everything changed with immigration, it can be in a few weeks. You might already have your work authorization in your hand. Another example of a case pending is you're married to a U.S. citizen and that person files a petition for you. You can also file for a green card at the same time. And while that's pending, you can also file for the work authorization. So in that scenario, you would file all those applications at the same time, including the work authorization.
I see.
So that it moves the process quicker.
So you don't need to, in that scenario,
Yes.
you don't need the curing period, so to speak, the 90 days.
The 150 days, that's just for asylum case. There's lots of different examples of pending cases that you can get a work authorization card. So for example, also, let's say if you have a case before an immigration judge, a case called the cancellation of removal, as long as you show proof that that's pending with immigration, you can apply for a work authorization. People who are also applied for a U visa and have received a letter from immigration saying that you've shown enough for us to determine that you may qualify for this U visa, you could also get a work authorization. If you have temporary protected status, that's also a case where you can get a work authorization.
I see.
So there's lots of different cases where you could get work authorization. Some of them can be while the case is pending. Some other cases, the case has to be approved in order for you to actually get the work authorization. So it just depends on the type of case.
But to a certain extent, the bottom line is, whatever your scenario is, it has to be, you have to have filled out an application for whatever path you are seeking to go down towards citizenship, and having done so, then yes, you can apply
Correct.
for a work permit.
Correct.
I see. Are there situations that you come across where people assume that, well, I'm sure I can get a work permit, but they actually can't? Is that typically of it's a pending thing that you mentioned earlier? Or are there scenarios where, yeah, even though you have something pending, you can't apply for work
There's
permit?
lots of those scenarios. So a big one is for example, you have a spouse who has petitioned for you. As I said, then usually you submit a green card application, and while that's pending, you can also submit your application for work authorization. But for people who, for example, which is a lot of people who cross the border and they've married someone who's a U.S. citizen, that person can petition for them, right? And that's an application called the Form I-130. They can file that application, but you cannot file your green card application because you need something that's called a waiver. And you can file that petition, and then once that's approved, you can file the waiver. And this is a process of several years. But during this process, you cannot qualify for a work authorization. So a lot of
Uh,
people
until I get the waiver.
during the entire process you cannot get work authorization. So essentially you do the entire process. Once the waiver is approved, you have to return to your home country, attend an interview at the US embassy in your country, and then when you come back as a lawful permanent resident. And as a lawful permanent resident, you do not need work authorization because you're a lawful permanent
Need a work
resident.
permit.
So during that whole process, which
Aha.
can be several years, we're talking about, possibly 5 years, you did not get work
Yeah.
authorization. And a lot of people don't understand that. They get frustrated, and I understand the frustration, but that's just how the law works. And at this moment, they do not
Yep.
give people that opportunity to get a work authorization. And I'll give you, if it's
That's
okay, I'll
yeah,
give you
that's
another example. Um,
please.
so there's lots of children, such as juveniles, minors under 21, that qualify for something called special immigrant juvenile status. That's a very popular type of relief for a minor that doesn't that has one parent that we could prove that has neglected or abandoned or abused that child. Um, and for a while, for several years, when that application, that special immigrant juvenile status application was approved, the minor could get work authorization while they wait for their turn to apply for a green card, which can be several years. But under the Trump administration, they've actually taken that away, and there is some litigation going on. Definitely, if you're in that scenario, I recommend to speak to an attorney because you may right now qualify or not. So it's difficult in that immigration law changes so much given
Yeah.
who's in power. And sometimes it's hard for
Yeah.
clients to understand that because literally just about 2 years ago, right? Somebody in that scenario could have gotten work authorization, but now they may not be able to.
Yeah, it's interesting. And people are talking to each other, of course, or, my cousin or my best friend, he went through it and he got status. He's like, Sean, you got to do it. You can do it. You can get a permit. And now, like, well, yeah, that was 2 years
Exactly.
ago.
Well, that was yesterday,
And
not
yeah, or yesterday.
literally.
I know. It's one of the reasons I'm loving our conversations because it's so pertinent to what's going on in the world around us right now, and people really need they need resources, and also it helps just for the average person uh, to understand the complexity. I think in terms of that is one of those. Not to get too political here, but people think, oh, it's easy, like like we have open borders, like it's easy to get citizenship here. It's not really.
What people don't understand is that it's very difficult. It's very limited paths to get lawful status in the United States.
Yeah.
You could be here 30 years and might not qualify for anything, which is the saddest type of cases I see.
Wow. Well, we may have covered this, but if someone's already working without authorization, how does that impact their ability to apply for a work permit later? Do they end up having to go back to like you have to get a waiver and leave the country and do all that again, or is there another
So
scenario?
generally, no. I mean, the one thing that I think that the laws are kind of more forgiving about is the working without authorization. And I'm under the belief, just based on my government experience, is that the government, understands that people need to work to survive. So it's not something that you generally get a very strong ding in your record for. We always recommend our clients, if you are working, you should be paying your taxes. So there is a way to do that. So that's why they say a lot of immigrants are paying taxes because they
Right.
know that
Right.
that's a positive thing. So even if they do not have work authorization, it's recommended for you to be paying, filing your taxes every year.
Yeah. It's not automatic, right? They have to proactively make that happen.
Proactive thing, you have to get something called an ITIN number. You have to speak with a tax professional to get that process going, but it's highly recommended if you plan to ever file for any type of legal status in the United States.
Yeah, it's interesting that paper trail of effort. We mentioned, we talked earlier about situation where in a crime you've been victimized by a crime and you're on record with the police department as having cooperated, and that's a positive thing, obviously, in anyone reviewing your case. And so similarly, hey, I've been paying my taxes and my kids are in school, and walking and talking like a citizen. Walk us through, once a work permit is approved, what are the limits people need to be aware of? And then I'm assuming it needs to be renewed.
Yes. Uh, as I indicated, different types of cases allows you cases that are pending allows you to get a work authorization, but also based on that case, it will tell you how long you can have that work authorization for. And
Yeah.
again, and that's also changing. So, for a while, let's say you got a work authorization through Asylum, it was valid for about 5 years. Before that, I believe it was 2 years. Um, and now I believe they're trying to change that, or they have changed that. So it's fluctuating. But I think
Mhm.
one thing that I do want to address is that there is this misconception that if you have work authorization, that you have legal status in the United States and you can kind of walk around without any issues, and essentially you're not able to get detained by ICE, and that's just simply not true. Having work authorization is not legal status. So that's just a document that allows you to work while your case is pending with immigration, but it does not give you legal status in the United States. So a lot of people will call me and say, why was my family member detained? I mean, they have work authorization. It's like, well,
Right.
unfortunately, that's not legal status. And that's why they were detained by ICE, because they're considered that they are illegal in this country, right? And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand that.
Mhm.
That simply having that work
Well,
authorization, it's a great thing because it allows you to work. It opens up more opportunities for you. But unfortunately, that's not a basis for you to legally remain in the United States.
yeah. I mean, it is counterintuitive, right? I can totally empathize if, I mean, to the extent I can imagine being in that situation, but like, okay, I'm, I have a case pending. So I'm going through a process to become a citizen, following the laws, interacting with the government. I've got a case pending, and as a result, I'm also able to work now. I got a work permit, right? Like, oh, I'm cooking with gas here. This is great. And then to find out somebody approaches and asks for my ID or whatever, I get detained. Like, whoa, 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 bro. I'm like, I'm already in touch with your people. Like your people said I could stay. They're looking at my case. They let me work while I'm here. But it's like a left hand, right hand thing. I mean, they do know what the other hand is doing, but yeah, it's kind of
Yeah, it's rough. It doesn't make much sense. And what I say a lot of times, that immigration just generally just does not make sense. Like when you sit down and really study it, a lot of it doesn't make sense, and a lot of it is unfair. Certain groups of people are treated better or given more benefits. Like I have people all the time, well, how come this person, who had a very serious crime, was able to get their green card, and how come I don't have anything? How come? It's just the laws are
yeah.
just different.
Yeah, in that way, it's like I don't know if it's not personal. I mean, maybe it is personal, but given that there's so many different, the pathways you've described and the different circumstances, it's quite a patchwork, right? And so uh, I get that it would be. You might look at somebody's case and think, well, mine's the same or quote unquote better. Why aren't I getting my papers?
And my response generally is like, every case is different. They may have things about their case that you don't have. Um, a lot of people just speak to their neighbor. They think, oh, it was the same thing. But most of the time it's not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and you're dealing with people generally. I mean, as in any attorney I speak to, that's one of the reasons we need attorneys is because we've got people that they don't need to know that law. That's why you have an attorney in a sense, right? And so um, we're coming up on time, Jocelyn. Is there anything else you want to share about work permit situations? Anything that, is there a common scenario that you see where people walk into your office or call because of, like, oh, that happens all the time, or, whatever. Anything that comes to mind for you before we sign off?
Not necessarily. I think you should educate yourself to see if you do not have a work authorization. Try to find out how I can get one. Is there a case that I can apply
Mhm.
for so I could get a work authorization? Just know that you can't just simply apply for work authorization. You have to have a basis to get that. But it's always helpful to just, do a quick consultation with an attorney so you know what your options are for that.
Hmm. And I'm guessing your website has a lot of information about steps to take.
Our website Right, our website has our contact information. They're welcome to just give us a call. We do provide consultations. We're very honest about what you qualified for, what you don't qualify for. So I highly recommend to do that.
Great. Well, as always, great to talk to you. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you, Sean.
That's it for today's episode of the Immigration Clarity Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Andrade, Barbosa, and Santos, LLC, or speak with someone about your situation, visit their website, abslawllc.com. Thanks for listening. I'm Sean O'Connor, and do us a favor, leave a review, subscribe to the podcast, maybe even share a link with someone in your world who you think might benefit from this information. It's certainly a contemporary topic out there. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.